Hello, this is the final exercise for the Summer Online Psychology 216 course. I'm going to begin by answering the first three questions regarding the two hypotheses about the second graders and the fifth graders. Let's begin. For the first question, the null hypothesis is that rho equals 0, meaning that there is no linear relation. The alternative hypothesis is that rho does not equal 0, meaning that there is a linear relation. The test statistic is a test based on the t-distribution because the question concerns a single population correlation and the null hypothesis is rho equals 0. In order to determine the rejection region, some other information is vital to know. For this question, you can assume that alpha equals 0.05, and you also must determine the degrees of freedom. For this question, the degrees of freedom equals n minus 2, which is 24 minus 2, which equals 22. This test is also two-tailed, so when you go to find your R critical value, you must go to the table, but there is no value for 22, so you must go down to 20. So for this question, the R critical value is plus or minus 0.4227. So therefore, the rejection region is your R obtained is less than or equal to negative 0.4227, or R obtained is greater than or equal to positive 0.4227. Now that the rejection region has been determined, the decision and conclusion can now be made. For the test with the second graders, you would not reject the null hypothesis because 0.19 does not fall into the rejection region. The conclusion is that there is insufficient evidence of a linear relation between TV and reading comprehension. For the test with the fifth graders, you would also not reject the null hypothesis because 0.31 does not fall into the rejection region either. The conclusion is again that there is insufficient evidence of a linear relation between TV and reading comprehension. For question 4a, the rejection region must be determined for the combined samples of the second and fifth graders. So for this, you can assume alpha as 0.05 again, and to determine the degrees of freedom, it equals 48 minus 2, which equals 46. But also in the table of R critical values, there is no 46 for degrees of freedom, so you must go down to 45. This is also a two-tailed test, so therefore the R critical value is plus or minus 0.2875. In this case, the rejection region now becomes your R obtained is less than or equal to negative 0.2875, or your R obtained is greater than or equal to 0.2875. The decision for the new hypothesis test now becomes to reject the null hypothesis because the sample correlation of R equals 0.62 does fall into the rejection region. The conclusion becomes that there is a direct relation between TV and reading comprehension. For question 5, a possible explanation for why the magnitude of the correlation for the combined sample differed from the separate samples could be that the range was restricted. Because the means and standard deviations differed for the samples of second and fifth graders, this indicates that a broader range of scores was available to be sampled. In the first two hypothesis tests, a restricted range of scores was sampled, so the absolute magnitude of the correlation coefficient was less than in the third hypothesis test, which used the combined sample and had the full range of sampled scores. Well, that's all for this final exercise. Thank you for watching.